Well, we did have a cold front that came through the region earlier today with some light rain across most of the area. However, the colder air is likely going to come through Friday with a rather chilly morning Sunday and a dry, cool forecast throughout most of next week. Get back to that in just a second. And thank you again for joining us. My name is Christopher Banner with the National Weather Service here in Slilo, Louisiana, and this is your weekly weather briefing on Thursday, November 11th, 2021, Veterans Day. Thank you, all of our veterans, for your service. So real quick, this is the overview. The forecast does remain fairly quiet, cool, and then dry, at least through next Wednesday. We did have that initial cold front that came through earlier today with only some light rain across some of the area. There's probably a good portion of the region remained dry or only saw maybe a few hundredths. We will get a secondary cold front to come through Friday, late Friday, and that's where the much colder air is going to be associated with. That'll come through Friday, and we will see a drop in temperatures with breezy conditions Friday night and into Saturday. Clouds will be kind of the question mark. We won't be cloudy during the day Friday, but overnight Friday night, and there's a question of how fast clouds can clear out Saturday, especially across the northern portions of the area. So you're looking like I-12 corridor north, maybe portions of coastal Mississippi. Clouds could hang around for quite a while Saturday. We'll just keep a close eye on that. But that will also have implications on the temperature Saturday night, Sunday morning, which could be the coldest morning so far this season now, with our best chance of seeing patchy areas of frost, maybe even a few locations trying to flirt with 32 degrees. But we'll go over that in a little bit. And then we do see a slow warm-up to start the work week with another weak cold front expected around the end of the work week just before the weekend. Real quickly, because I'm obligated to show this, the tropical weather outlook looks quiet. The only area they're looking at is kind of in the north of the northern portions of the middle Atlantic, and there are no issues for us, and it looks like it's going to be quiet throughout the remainder of the month. Hurricane season itself does end on November 30th. However, we can always get tropical systems even outside the season. However, again, there are no indications of a tropical system impacting our region, so I'm sure there are no complaints with this. So looking at our forecast for next week, this is surface features showing the fronts and high pressures over the area. As you can see, this was the front that came through earlier today that did bring some light rain over probably about half the region, with weak high pressure pushing in behind it. But that next cold front's the one we're watching, the one pushing through Arkansas at this point. It will move into our area Friday night, and then by Saturday morning will probably be well into the Gulf of Mexico with high pressure pushing in behind it. That high pressure will be where our cold air is associated with, and it will remain on the over the area Sunday, Monday, and then finally Tuesday start to push off to the east with some return flow by possibly late Tuesday, Wednesday, which would increase the moisture and temperatures. And then the next cold front is approaching our area Thursday, with maybe some light rain associated with that one. Not a strong cold front, and doesn't really look like much in the way of rain, so looking probably light showers with that one as well. But that is 7 days out, and that forecast will obviously get updated and refined as we get closer to it. So the big question we have is Sunday morning. Just kind of want to go over this, what we as forecasters use and look at to kind of make an idea of our forecast. This is the glance basically at Sunday morning lows. What I'm showing here is what we call the NBM, the National Blend Models. Basically, this is a forecast that we run. I don't know the actual numbers, but say it's close to 100 different iterations of it. But not only do we run multiple runs of this, it takes in and all the other models and uses a kind of a weighting system. So it takes in the European model, takes in the American, the GFS model, the other American, the NAM. It takes in the high resolution models. It takes in some other portions of models. I think even maybe the Canadian and the UK Met models. So it takes all these models, it takes in their ensemble means, and it runs all these together, runs it numerous times. So it provides a multitude of forecasts, over any given time frame. And what I'm looking at right here is Sunday morning. This Sunday morning forecast is for the morning lows. The upper left is what we call the 25th percentile. The upper right is my 75th percentile. And the lower center is the 50th percentile. It's not necessarily the mean, it is the 50th percentile because the mean could be a little different from that. What you need to understand about this is that that's not a confidence percentage. What that is that upper left, which is the 25th percentile, means that if there's 100 models that have been run, there are 25 models that are below that forecast on the upper left. The 75th percentile, which is the upper right, means of those 100 runs, 25% of them are higher than that. Whereas the middle one, that center, which is the 50%, means that it is right in the middle. 50% of the models are cooler, 50% of the models are warmer than that. So what I want to point out, though, is a few areas that we have knowledge of that can cool or remain warm. Some of those areas are like Slidell, Pascagoula, and Belle Chase. These areas reside, you may have heard us call them before, refer to them as the drainage areas. So we have the Pascagoula drainage area, we have the Pearl River drainage area, and then that West Bank will actually get pretty darn cold on certain nights, and it could be quite a bit colder than New Orleans. The NBM and all models really struggle with those cold spots. They also struggle with the hot spots as well. Some of the hot spots we have used to be MSY, which is a New Orleans International Airport, but it's definitely lakefront and maybe even Baton Rouge to an extent. But if you look at that upper left, it shows 33 degrees for Slidell, 33 for Pascagoula. We may use this model right here, feeling that that's a better forecast for those areas because those are the drainage areas. They will get colder because if we use the lower middle one, which is closer to the 50 percentile, which is actually looking at our forecast colder than what the actual we call deterministic. We also have an MBM forecast that actually gives us its forecast, and that's the deterministic one. That deterministic forecast is actually higher than that. It shows 35 here for Slidell, but that deterministic forecast actually shows 38. And that gives you an indication, since that 38 is actually kind of on the higher end of if you know statistics, box and whiskers, it's on the higher end of the models, which means that its forecast is actually warmer than about 75% of the forecast that the model's putting out. That gives us confidence to go colder in some areas or warmer, depending on where that is. So we're looking at basically Slidell and looking at Pascagoula for that cooler temperatures. However, we may use the upper right, the 75th percentile, for other areas like Lakefront, Boothville, or even New Orleans International Airport. Those areas, especially Lakefront, will be highly influenced by Lake Pontchartrain. Lake Pontchartrain hasn't quite cooled off yet. It will cool off, and it's going to cool off a lot quicker than the rest of the Gulf of Mexico, obviously, because it's a smaller area of water. But it hasn't cooled off quite yet, and that will have major implications on the forecast at Lakefront, especially if the winds are coming out of the north. However, Belle Chase is an interesting one. That's on the West Bank. It's actually somewhat protected, and it tends to drop like a rock a lot of times. Even this past weekend, it had some relatively cold temperatures early in the morning. The MBM and all models really struggle with that area, so it allows us to forecast lower. But as you can see here, it's even indicating 42, 44, 46 for the Belle Chase area, which gives us a good idea that we're looking at least lower 40s in that area, and we probably even colder than that 42 that the 25 percentile is showing. So it's just kind of what I'm going over with is what we kind of look at to help make our forecast, knowing where the biases are in models and what the probabilities look like. It gives us some confidence one way or the other. The Saturday night forecast, Sunday morning low forecast is going to be tricky because there's multiple things that could come into play. One, how long do those clouds last? If they last a good portion of the day, Saturday, what that's going to do is it's going to set the table for Saturday night because they will clear out Saturday night, before Saturday night. And if we don't warm up, we're already going to start off cooler than what some of the models are expecting, which would then make it even easier to get down colder. The biggest problem, though, looks like it could be winds. Winds will be breezy all Friday night and probably a good portion of the day Saturday. Do they shut off Saturday night? If they shut off Saturday night, then we're going to have what you would call radiational cooling. It'll be a very optimal situation, and we will drop pretty considerably overnight. However, the winds need to be relatively light, if not calm, from the surface to even 1,000 or 2,000 feet above the ground. So if the winds are still at 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, still blowing at 15, 20 miles an hour, that's not good for cooling, because what it's still going to do, even though winds at the surface are quiet or calm, it's still going to allow for mixing. So we won't have the optimal conditions for the cooling overnight. So that's just some of the things we're kind of watching for as well. But it does look like there's a good chance of seeing at least some frost across at least the northern half of the area. So I-12 corridor north across southeast Louisiana, all of southwest Mississippi, and portions of coastal Mississippi. We'll need to keep a close eye to see if any places do, possibly touch the freezing mark. One more thing that we kind of look at as well, this is the SIPS analogs. It's a historical analog look back at the pattern we're saying that we're expected to see this weekend. It gives us an idea of that pattern, how often or what are the probabilities of seeing 32 degrees or below. And the pattern that we're going to be in at this time of the year actually suggests a pretty decent shot of seeing some locations touching freezing. So southwest Mississippi, especially that area, and maybe right across the border into Louisiana, across the Florida parishes, kind of isolated areas could see temperatures drop down to near freezing Sunday morning. So this is just another tool that we use that kind of gives us some confidence in a pretty cold forecast Sunday morning. We start to warm up as we go into next week. I was showing you earlier with the high pressure. So what about outside of that? Well, this is a 6 to 10 day outlook. We're going to be in a relatively flat or progressive pattern. And what that means is just we're going to see multiple cold fronts come through here, but they're not going to be very strong, which does not allow for moisture to return. This cold front's going to push the moisture out into the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to take quite a while for us to recover. So what this is showing over the next basically days 6 to 10, outside of look at kind of like Wednesday next week, and then continuing on through the next weekend into possibly the beginning of the Thanksgiving week. We look equal chances of both below and above normal temperatures, probably remain near normal. However, because we're going to push that moisture well into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to struggle for us to recover. So we probably have a better chance of seeing below normal precipitation. However, given that this is going to be a flat pattern, very progressive pattern, we won't see a very amplified situation setting up. We won't push that moisture out with that next cold front as much, which may allow for the back end of the last week of November to have a slightly better chance of seeing above normal precip, which we show the Climate Prediction Center showing right here. And temperatures could be near to a slightly above normal as well, given that we're going to be in a flat progressive pattern. So we'll just keep a close on it. There are indications, though, that we could see a few chilly, time frames in December. A lot's indicating that cold air may be building up well north of us at some point. That's going to kind of come back down to our area, and there are some indications we could see a good little shot of cold air during a good portion of December. That is it from us. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Hopefully you learned something today and you had a good idea. The forecast looks pretty quiet next week. And we would like to thank, again, all of our veterans, including all the veterans we have here at the office. Thank you for your service. Hopefully you have a great Veterans Day, and everybody have a great week. Thank you.